If you have a summer holiday booked and you want to slim down and tone up for that holiday, in this video, I'm going to take you through everything that you need to know to help you lose 6 to 8 kilos in the next 10 weeks. Because fat loss is confusing. There is so much information out there. Do this diet. No, do that diet. Have carbs. No, don't have carbs. Do HIIT. No, do Pilates. No, go for a run. It's no wonder you're sat there thinking, where the fuck do I start? And if you're sat there thinking, why on earth should I listen to you? I'm a women's strength and fat loss coach who's worked with hundreds of women over the past 4 years to take them from serial yo-yo dieters who are scared of the gym to confident lifters who finally understand how fat loss works so they can shed the fat for good. And to help you get started, I'm giving you 4 weeks of free fat loss coaching. You can find the link in the description below. The first thing that you need to know about is calories. Now, a calorie is simply a unit of measuring the energy that is found in our food. Simple as that. And why are they important? Well, because if we consume too much energy, i.e. more energy than your body burns on a daily basis, then that energy will turn into fat stored in our bodies because it isn't being used. Which brings me on nicely to the second thing that you need to know about, a calorie deficit. A calorie deficit simply means eating less calories than your body is burning. And this is the only scientifically proven way that you will drop body fat. It's quite literally the basis of any diet in the history of the world that has ever worked. Whilst one of your friends might turn around and say, yeah, I did keto, it was great, I didn't have to count calories and I lost a load of weight. The only reason that that diet has actually worked is because it has put them into a calorie deficit and they have been consuming less energy than their body was burning and therefore dropped the fat. Now, the third thing that you need to know about is macros, which is the short way of saying macronutrients. And these are the 3 main nutrients found in our food. So we've got proteins, we've got carbs, and we've got fats. Now, carbohydrates are our body's main source of energy. They provide fuel to our cells, organs, tissues, and will be the main source of energy for going about your day-to-day. Carbohydrates are typically things like bread, rice, pasta, couscous, potatoes. Now, carbs often get a bad rep, especially seemingly when it comes to weight loss. But carbs are actually extremely important for our body. Like I said, they are our body's main source of energy and incredibly important for cognitive function. Then you've got fats, which again, often get a bad rep and people think, oh no, I'm trying to lose fat, I need to avoid anything that has fat in it. Fat is something that your body actually really needs to help protect your vital organs. It helps with the absorption of some vital vitamins and minerals. That's a bit of a tongue twister. Again, some fatty acids are incredibly important for supporting your brain function, things like your omega-3s, omega-6s. And while yes, you might not want to overconsume on saturated fats, looking at foods that provide more unsaturated fats like your avocados, nuts, seeds, oils, oily fish, these are all considered healthy fats that are actually going to provide your body with things that it does need. And protein. Now, in terms of fat loss, this is the macronutrient that you want to think about the most. So protein is literally the building blocks of our muscles. It's what they're made up of. So when you're eating in a calorie deficit, your body is going to lose weight. And you want to make sure that that weight that it loses is fat and not muscle. By eating adequate protein alongside strength training, you're going to help to preserve that lean muscle mass and make sure that it's fat that drops off instead. Protein is also the thing that's going to help to keep you feeling fuller for longer, which when you're trying to survive on less energy than your body is burning, it's actually really damn helpful. It makes a huge difference to the hunger that you feel between meals and therefore your need to snack. Your body also burns more calories simply by digesting protein than it does any of the other macronutrients. So that's just an added bonus really. So now that we know the nutrition basics, how do we actually go about putting that into practice? You need to work out your total daily energy expenditure. Now you can do this by using a calculator online. I've linked one in the description below. It's generally the one that I use. This will take into account your age, your weight, your height, and your current activity levels and give you a rough idea of how many calories your body burns on a daily basis. You can then use this number and subtract from it to create your calorie deficit. Now, there's different levels of a deficit that you can create, and obviously the bigger the deficit, the faster the weight loss, but also the harder it is. If you're eating in a deficit of around about 500 calories a day, that will lead to weight loss of roughly £1 a week, which you might think sounds slow, but it's actually considered a very good rate of weight loss. Obviously, if you increase the deficit, then you will lose weight faster, and if you decrease it, you'll still lose weight, but it will take a little bit longer. Now we've been through the nutrition basics, we can start looking at activity. Number one, you want to be doing some form of strength training. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean going to a gym. This could be doing workouts at home, either body weight or with some lighter weights. Ideally, yes, you will head into a gym because you will find that there are a much bigger range of weights and equipment, which will make it easier to progress. However, there is so much that can be done at home if you're not ready to step foot in the gym yet. If you're just starting with strength training, I would recommend 2 to 3 strength sessions per week as a beginner. Now, you want to keep these to full body strength sessions. So in these, you want to include one form of squat movement. So this could be a body weight squat, it could be a goblet squat, it could be a barbell squat, it could be a front squat, some form of squat. Then you want to look at some form of hinge movement. So your classic would be your deadlift, your Romanian deadlift, something like a barbell good morning, or even a hip thrust. Then you want to think about a push movement. So anything that is pushing the weight away from you. Something like a chest press, an incline chest press, a shoulder press, a tricep extension. And then a pull movement, which is anything that's pulling the weight towards your body. So something like a lat pull down, a bent over row, a seated cable row, a bicep curl. These are going to form the basis of your strength sessions. And if you want some workouts that you can follow, take a scroll down my page because there are several workouts with demonstrations of each exercise that makes it really easy for you to follow. Now, when you're doing your strength sessions, you want to make sure that you are applying something called progressive overload, which simply means increasing the load placed on the body over time. Now, without getting really sciencey, as we strength train, our muscles actually break down and tear, and then they repair and rebuild, which is what leads us to get stronger. So if you just keep doing the same thing all the time, then actually once they've adapted to that, they won't break down and then they won't get stronger. So we need to make sure that we are continually challenging them. There are numerous ways of doing this. You can increase the weight that you're using. That's the typical, the obvious one that everyone kind of goes for. You can also increase the reps that you're doing. So, you know, one week you might have done 8 reps of something and you might try and push that to 10, maybe 12 reps the following week. You can increase your sets. So you might have done like 3 sets of an exercise one week, and you might add in a 4th set the following week. You can slow the movement down, which will increase the time that the muscle is under tension. You can add in a pause or a pulse at the bottom of a movement, or you can increase the frequency. So you could up your training days from 2 to 3. Or maybe 3 to 4. These are all ways that you can apply progressive overload. However, you need to make sure that you are tracking your workouts so that you know exactly what you're doing. Because I guarantee you, with the greatest will in the world, you're not going to remember every exercise, every rep, and every weight that you have used every single week. So make sure you're recording your workout somewhere so you've got something to refer back to so that you know that you're progressing. And it's not just the gym that's important. Everything that you do outside of the gym is, I would argue, probably more important. When you think about it, the gym, if you're going, 2-3 times a week, even 4 or 5 times a week, that takes up a very, very small proportion of your week. So I want to introduce you to a concept called NEAT, which is non-exercise activity thermogenesis. This is basically all of the activity that you do outside of the gym. Things like walking, taking the stairs rather than taking the lift, cleaning the house, doing things like hoovering, mopping, scrubbing the bathroom. A great example of NEAT. The more activity that you do outside of the gym, the more calories that you're going to burn, which then makes your calorie deficit that little bit easier. So you now have a basic understanding of nutrition and a basic understanding of activity when it comes to fat loss. So the next thing, how do we go about measuring progress? Obviously, we want the weight on the scales to come down, but the scales are not going to be the be-all and end-all of your progress. As time goes, they are going to fluctuate up and down. It is not going to be a smooth sailing line that just comes down like this. There are going to be days where your weight spikes and you're going to think, what the fuck? I was perfect with my calories yesterday. I did everything right, everything that I need to do. Why has my weight gone up? There will be so many factors that come into play when it comes to your scale weight. It could be simply a case of, you've not been to the toilet before you stepped on the scales. You might have eaten dinner later the night before, so your body hasn't had a chance to digest it as well as it had done the previous day. You might have eaten more salt the day before, so your body's retaining more water. Your hormones will have an impact. There are so many factors that come into the scale, so it's really important that you don't just rely on them to measure your progress. You want to be doing things like taking body measurements, measuring your waist, your chest, your hips, taking progress pictures, thinking about things like how your clothes are fitting, how much more energy you have, how much better you feel. When my clients come to me and say, oh, Lauren, I feel really disheartened that the scales have gone up, I turn around and I say to them, right, if you hadn't stepped on the scales and you didn't know that number, how would you be feeling right now? Would you be feeling good about your progress, or would you be feeling a bit shit? And I guarantee that the answer is going to be feeling good. So there is everything that you need to know to help you drop fat, slim down and tone up before your summer holiday. Don't forget that you can grab yourself 4 free weeks of fat loss coaching in the description below. If you found this helpful, then make sure that you hit like and subscribe so you don't miss out on the next one.